As we look in the book of Revelations, chapters 2 through 3, we understand that congregations were receiving counsel and direction and commendation from Jesus. And in those, as you read that, you understand that there is no once saved, always saved, because if there was, there'd be no need for Jesus to bring about the correction on these churches. And really just 2 of them were doing really well, but 5 were lacking. But in the congregation of Ephesus, chapter 11, the book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 2, the first congregation was given this correction was the congregation of Ephesus. In Revelation chapter 2, verse 2, though, we know some commendation. It says, I know your deeds and your labor and endurance, and that you cannot tolerate bad men, and that you put to the test those who say they are apostles, but they are not, and you found them to be liars. So here the Ephesian congregation were commended by Jesus because they followed what he told them to do. They did as he said. Test these people out. They come in making claims, find out who they are. And that's what they did. They checked them out, found these guys that claimed to be special, claimed to be apostles. They found them to be liars. Commendation from Jesus. So if we don't have the same mindset as these men here, as this congregation did here, then really we're on our own. We're ready to be deceived. And so when we have that mindset, we're going to look at the various ones we're able to find out scripturally, not based on personal opinion, not based on the way you think about them, but based on the scriptures. For instance, the Watchtower, their governing body, they claim to be anointed, they claim to be the channel, the faithful and discreet slave. Well, we got 2 verses for them. Daniel 4:22, Proverbs 30, verse 6. Scriptures that prove them liars. You see, liars. Just as the Ephesians found those apostles, we find them to be liars based on the scriptures. You see, the Ephesian congregation found out they were liars early on, and so avoided them being wrongfully influenced by them and therefore making wrong decisions. Many people don't have that to say when it comes to the Watchtower governing body. Many bad decisions have been made because they didn't realize who they were by understanding their basic teaching of 1914 as false, as a false teaching, as those 2 scriptures bring out. And the Watchtower governing body talking about they're going to heaven. They can't get to heaven because they're telling them lies. As Revelation 14 says, no deception is found in their mouths, those that will be with Jesus wherever he goes. What about the Catholic Church? They said, well, we're the church. We're the Christ church. Well, look at their resume. Just like the Ephesians looked at the resume of the apostles. Look at their resume. The idolatry that they employ, such as the rosary and other things that they do. Their worship of Mary. Look at the doctrine of discovery that caused the enslavement and brutalization of indigenous people and blacks. And then look at the many millions that were killed by means of them. And even look at what happened in World War II with Hitler and their complicity with him. Liars. And then we can look to Islam. Are they God's people? Well, if they were God's people, they would not be doing anything of what they're doing. They definitely would not be trying to genocide other people, but they would be trying to live in peace. They would have concern for their own people. They wouldn't go over creating terrorism and then causing their own people, men, women, and children, repercussions from that. Jesus said to calculate the cost. And if they were God's people, they would never have lost battles, which they have. They have been proven to be liars. Even those who claim to be Israel today, they have no temple, they have no priesthood, they have no genealogical record, They don't keep the law of Moses, because they did, they wouldn't be treating the Palestinians like that, like they do. As God says, he wants one law for the native and the foreigner. They're not doing that. And because of that, they continue to create the animosity. And all these people proven to be liars. Those who support abortion and same-sex marriages and the like. What about those? They claim to be of Christ, but yet the Bible shows these things are in opposition to God. They never came up into his heart. They are detestable to him. So how, in what way can you be of Christ when you're supporting such things? Yes, you're proven to be the same as those apostles in the first, at the Ephesians found out in the first century. And what about this, the racism that we see? The racism, the discrimination, and we see in America, particularly against black people. The MAGA movement, which is really the gas that's running that is whites first thinking, white supremacy. And you take a list of all the white evangelical churches that are supporting, all the white churches that are supporting it. That's a list of liars. They claim to be of Christ, they're not of Christ, because if they were Christ, they'd have the Spirit of God. The Spirit of God reflects God's thinking. God's thinking is that of not being partial, but being impartial. That's the wisdom from above, of accepting the man who does the will of God, of having love, even love for your enemies, not having hatred for people, but hatred for what's wrong, love for what's right. So in what way are you God's people, and you're firmly behind such an effort that is direct conflict with who God is and his will? Liars. And how can you come in the household of Jesus, the household of the Master, and then deny his God, deny the God that he's the son of, deny the God that he's the word of, deny the God that he says he lives because of, and think that somehow you're going to have the approval of Jesus? How are you going to walk up in his household and deny his God and think that's how it's going to end? No, it's not going to end well at all. That betrays any claim that you're a Christian, because you actually stepped in the household of Jesus and had the audacity to deny his only God. That's not going to work out. So unless you make such a test, unless you look clearly at what's happening and understand what God's view is, you're ready to be deceived. You're ready to be engaged in false teaching and being led blindly into the pit. Because the call is going out, and it is real. Revelation 18:4, get out of her, my people, if you don't want to share in her sins and the plagues that's going to come upon her. Get out of her. Receiving God's blessing, one cannot be aligned with lies. As again, Revelation 18 says, get out of her, my people. And the thing is that when that day comes, when Judgment Day comes, as the Jews of Jesus' time found out, what's going to happen is that if you remain in these institutions that are fake and fraud, that are really liars, Jesus will charge you with crimes that you wasn't even around to do. So the point is that we must be like the Ephesian congregation. Plainly understand what's what, who the liars are, get away from them, and escape to be the true people of God. Thank you.